Hi there, I'm State Representative Justin Chenette of House District 134, part of Saco, with this legislative update. We are nearing the end of the session, or at least I hope so. Statutory adjournment is April 16th, though they say that we might go a little bit over that depending on the number of vetoes from Governor LePage. So here's some of the things that we're working on and some of the things that I'm working on as we start to wrap up the legislative session. One of the things that we just passed in the House and in the Senate was to ensure that corporations that have tax havens overseas are contributing appropriately to their taxes. So ensuring that essentially corporate fraud is taken care of, and this could potentially save the state of money and earn the state of money about $7 to $10 million. So this is a really important thing. It's probably going to be vetoed by the governor, but again, basically ensuring that corporate fraud is taken care of and investigated. Also, another thing that might be of concern, there's a bill that's going through the Transportation Committee that's going to be coming to the House floor pretty soon, dealing with the Turnpike and particularly signs along the Turnpike. When you sort of get off at a certain exit, you'll notice a different colored signs, the blue signs, the green signs, and the brown signs that may lead to sort of the ocean or the parks. You know, these signs are sort of reevaluated from the federal government. The federal government's coming down with new guidelines, essentially. And so they're basically saying, hey, look, you need to get rid of some of these signs and have more of a uniform policy based on what the federal guidelines are. And so this bill that's going through the Transportation Committee is essentially going to be removing a lot of signs. Now, they're trying to work out the details to lessen the impact, but this is actually going to negatively impact Saco, Old Orchard Beach, potentially Biddeford, basically the tourist destinations, because essentially some of these signs that we rely on, that tourists rely on to know that, hey, this way to the beach, you know, this way to Funtown, is going to be potentially removed in this bill. So I have some major concerns about it. I'm hoping some changes are made to it before it comes to us. If it comes to the floor in its current form, I'm going to vote against it, because it will mean that signs along our Turnpike are going to be removed that send people to our local businesses around here. So it's really important that we follow this closely. Just because the federal government comes in with guidelines doesn't necessarily mean they're correct, even though they're tying specifically this bill and the passage of this bill with federal money. So that's always a sticky situation. Do you take the money and the bad guidelines, or what do you deal with that? So that's going to be the tricky scenario with that. Another thing that passed and became law, which I'm really excited about, is a bill that I co-sponsored with Representative Fowle of Vassalboro that basically will clear up some of the guidelines regarding a tax exemption for our veterans, specifically veterans of both the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. There's a number of questions related to this, especially with our tax assessors and even veterans themselves, not knowing whether veterans of both the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, and I use wars in quotation marks because technically they're conflicts, and so that's the dilemma in the statute, is like, is it a conflict, is it a war, do you meet those guidelines for this about $6,000 property tax exemption? So this bill basically clarifies that statute to say, you know what, those individuals that fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, our most recent conflicts, our most recent wars, I'll call them wars, that we need to clarify that in the law to make sure that they're being able to live in their homes, be able to financially live in their homes, especially with the high property taxes that we're noticing more and more and that we're trying to prevent. So this is, again, a $6,000 property tax exemption for those 62 years or older who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. Again, this is for really any veteran. This is the other qualification, or if you're 100% disabled from your service in the armed forces. So this, again, clarifies it, which I'm really excited about. It became law with the governor's signature. So if you have any questions, again, contact your local tax assessor to see all the details about that. Sort of in local news regarding sort of the Saco Bay Center for Civic Engagement, my nonprofit, we did a number of great things that kind of tie into what I just talked about, especially with the veterans. We held a Veterans Vietnam Day of Heroes event at the Hazelton House in Saco, where we essentially honored our Vietnam heroes, those individuals that came back and were treated so horribly that they deserve not only our respect, but our thanks, and in many cases an apology. And I think that's hopefully a taste of what they got with our event, and we hope to continue it. This was our second year doing this. Sandy Taylor was a critical piece to this, Jake Mulligan, others that were a part of our committee at the Saco Bay Center for Civic Engagement. And so we want to continue events like this to honor our heroes and essentially relating to the bill that I just talked about, making sure that we back that up with not just talk but action to ensure they're given the tools necessary to live happy and healthy lives. One other thing that we did at the Saco Bay Center was we held another Dirigo Talks focusing on building Maine's future through the arts, and that's a critical piece. So we brought together 7 speakers from all across the country, including DC and the American Council for the Arts, and came together in Portland to have this roundtable discussion. So we have a lot of things going on, so if you want to follow details about that, you can go to sacobaycenter.org, and if you want to follow all the legislative actions going on, you can go to my website at justinchenette.com. Again, we're wrapping up the session. It's getting really heated, very controversial. You're probably noticing a lot of tense animosity in the news right now, and it's really getting a little disheartening. So hopefully we can get out of this session, and then you're going to hopefully see a lot about the campaign on a lot of different fronts, because we are entering that season as well. So stay tuned for all of that. I'll keep you updated every step of the way. I'm Representative Justin Chenette of House District 134, part of Saco. Stay tuned and stay connected.